Shalom. This is Ron Warren with the Nuggets of the Torah. This week's teaching is the 4th Parsha of Numbers and the 37th Parsha of the Torah. It's called Shelech Lecha, which means send out. It is written in Numbers chapter 13, verse 6, and of the tribe of Judah, Caleb, the son of Jehunah. Caleb was one of the 12 spies who went into Canaan, and Caleb, whose Hebrew name means dog, was the leader of the tribe of Judah, and yet he was not an Israelite. He was a Gentile. Jehunah is not a Hebrew name. Now, it forces a question. What tribe did his father come from him? Scripture gives the answer. In Joshua chapter 14, verse 6, it reads, Then the children of Judah drew nigh unto Joshua in Gaal, and Caleb, the son of Jehunah, the Kenizzite, said to him, You know the thing that Adonai spoke to Moses, the man of God, concerning me and concerning you at Kadesh Barnea. Now, where is the Kenizzite tribe come from? Again, Scripture gives the tribes of the Canaanites, and it's found in Genesis chapter 15, verses 18 to 21. It reads, In that day God made a covenant with Abram, saying, Unto your seed I will give this land, from the river of Egypt unto the great river, the river Euphrates, the Kenite, the Kenizzite, and the Canaanite, the Hittite, the Perizzite, and the Rahim, and the Amorite, the Canaanite, the Girgashite, and the Jebusite. You know, in Numbers chapter 14, verse 24, it reads, But my son Caleb, because he had a different spirit and followed me fully, I will give unto the land which he entered, and his descendants shall take possession of it. Do you have the spirit of Caleb? You know, if there was ever a biblical Gentile character that displayed the right attitude or a different spirit toward God and his word, it would have to be Caleb. There are only 30 verses about Caleb, but 6 times Scripture stated that Caleb fully followed the Lord. You're going to find it in Numbers chapter 14, verse 24, and chapter 32, verse 12. It's also located in Deuteronomy chapter 1, verse 36, Joshua chapter 14, 8 and 9, and verse 14. And in the entire Torah, only 2 people were called God's servant, Moses and Caleb. Joshua and Caleb, in calling the people to take courage and fight in order to obtain the promised land, placed their appeal in these words, Do not rebel against God. You know, in Numbers chapter 13, verse 30, it reads, And Caleb stilled the people before Moses and said, Let us go up at once and possess it, for we are well able to overcome it. Caleb's words are important. He said, We are well able. Now, this doesn't mean he didn't have confidence in himself, and it did not have the wrong idea about their military power either. He was emphasizing where their power came from, and it came from firm confidence in God's power. Caleb reported the facts. Numbers chapter 14, verses 68 reads, Joshua the son of Nun and Caleb the son of Jehunah, who were among those who had explored the land, tore their clothes and said to the entire Israelite assembly, The land we passed through and explored is exceedingly good, and if the Lord is pleased with us, he will lead us into that land, a land flowing with milk and honey, and he will give it to us. Caleb did not avoid the problems. It was the way that he gave the facts. And this is what is different. The other men saw only the difficulties of the promised land. They were depressed above them all. But Caleb reported about the good things too. He reminded the people of God's power. Caleb acted in a definite and a quick way to defeat fear. He did not pretend that the giants did not exist, but he was different from what most men who were with him. He tried to report the good things too. Do you have the spirit of Caleb? Even in his twilight years, Caleb still possessed a different spirit, a spirit of following God fully. He did not complain or shrink from the task at hand, and for 40 years he dreamed of a day when he and God will drive out the heathen of the land. Caleb's life illustrates that there is no retirement plan in doing the Lord's work, only redirection. And at the ripe old age of 85, many people would consider beyond retirement, Caleb returns to the borders of what would soon be the land of the people of God. And when the Lord's challenge was offered to him in his old age, this believer of God gladly accepted it. Older members in the body of the Messiah should take a lesson from this courageous warrior. There is no retirement from the Lord's army, only redirection. You know, there are 3 sons of Anak that was named. You're going to find them in Joshua chapter 15, verse 14, which is also connected to Judges chapter 1, verse 20. And these sons, who Caleb eventually are going to defeat in the conquest. And Hebron was rewarded to Caleb as the plunder of war. When you take a look at Deuteronomy chapter 1, verse 28 and Deuteronomy 9, verse 2, it says the sons of Anak were also called the sons of the Hakim, meaning that they were the people of large stature or giants. The first people whom the scouts saw in the land were those who appeared impossible to defeat in war, and Caleb took that worst assignment, the land of the giants. And yet he is the only one who succeeded in driving out the inhabitants, as recorded in Joshua chapter 15, verses 13 to 17. Do you have the spirit of Caleb? You know, Caleb inherited what God promised him because his faith never wavered. While his world was changed dynamically following the people's refusal to go into the land, Caleb never faltered in his confidence in God's ability to fulfill what he had promised. And because of his great faith, Caleb was blessed. Do you have the spirit of Caleb? You know, in Numbers chapter 16, verse 10, it reads, "But all of the congregation said to stone them with stones, and then the glory of the Lord appeared in the tent of meeting to all of the sons of Israel." As the people rose up to declare and to pelt Caleb and Joshua with stones, God appeared to declare their fate. You know, Caleb had 7 characteristics showing that he's a man of God. Let's look at him. The first characteristic is a man of vision. He saw the land as the possession of God's people. The 10 saw it in the natural. Caleb saw it in the spirit. He had the vision of God. Do you have the vision of Caleb? Caleb was a man of faith. In Numbers chapter 13, verse 30, it reads, "Then Caleb quieted the people before Moses and said, 'Let us go up at once and take possession, for we are well able to overcome it.'" And he also says in Numbers chapter 14, verse 9, "Only do not rebel against the Lord, nor fear the people of the land, for they are our bread. Their protection has departed from them, and the Lord is with us. Do not fear him." Faith reasons God to the difficulties. Unbelief reasons from the difficulties to God. Do you have the faith of Caleb? Number 3 characteristic is Caleb was a man of perseverance. Faith needs to persevere. Caleb spent 40 years in the wilderness and in the midst of campfire activity with 10 incidents of murmuring. Perseverance comes because we see what God sees. Do you have the perseverance of Caleb? Number 4, Caleb was also a man of encouragement. He spread a good report. We can also do that. Why? Because God is with us. Are you ready to encourage others like Caleb? Number 5, Caleb was a man of loyalty. He supported both Moses and Joshua, as recorded in Joshua 14, verses 6 to 13. He was loyal to those who God placed over him. How is your loyalty with the people God placed over you? Number 6, Caleb was a man of war. In Joshua chapter 14, verses 10 to 12, it reads, "And now behold, the Lord has kept me alive, as he said, these 45 years, ever since the Lord spoke this word to Moses while Israel wandered in the wilderness. And now, here I am, this day, 85 years old, and yet I am as strong this day as on the day that Moses sent me. Just as my strength was then, so now is my strength for war, both going out and coming in. Now, therefore, give me this mountain of which the Lord spoke in that day. For you heard in that day how the Achaim was there, and that the cities were great and fortified. It may be that the Lord will be with me, and I shall be able to drive them out, as the Lord said." Caleb was 85 years of age, and he was not afraid of the enemy. Consider the enemy. Deuteronomy chapter 9, verse 2 reads, "Who can stand against the descendants of Anak?" It was the hardest place and had the biggest giants, and yet Caleb was not afraid. Now this shows a God-given principle. Before the blessing is the war. Can you fight the fight the way Caleb did? Number 7, Caleb was a man of blessing. In Joshua chapter 14, verses 13 to 19, it records the record of Caleb cleaning house when he received that land. Although the mountain he wanted was filled with hostile Anakites, he refused defeat and claimed his inheritance. And it's recorded it then records the blessings of Caleb. He gave away the springs of the water. This is important when you realize that springs were more important than the land. He was a blessing to be a blessing. He came into his inheritance, fought for it, and then gave it away. Are you like Caleb, a blessing to others? Do you have the same 7 characteristics of Caleb? Are you God's Caleb for our time? Do you have a different spirit within you? Shalom. Until next week with the episodes of the Nuggets of the Torah. If this teaching has been a blessing to you, consider subscribing to the YouTube channel.